I have been dating this guy for 2 months. He's my coworker, and we knew each other for 5 months before we started dating. He was my crush since I started working there. I liked him because he was so kind, loving, funny, a good person, and I saw how much other people loved him and would speak highly of him. He hasn't had an easy life, but right now he wants to buy his first house, is cherished at work, has a great and close relationship with his family, has pets, cooks for me, and fulfills all my needs for care and love. I noticed his habits when I first started working there. I would see him drink a beer or two during work. We work outside on a farm or zoo, so it's not that unusual, and other coworkers would do the same. I'm not saying it's okay, just that I'm used to it and even join in sometimes. Now I'm starting to see that he drinks 3 to 6 beers every day and always drinks at night, I'm guessing to be able to sleep. I don't know much about alcoholism. I've been reading stories online, and I just don't see the patterns of behavior other than the drinking itself yet. I'm reading a lot about selfishness, and I really can't see that in him. I mostly see him as being broken, and I feel so bad for him because I know he has so much potential. My mom was an alcoholic for a few years and is now sober, but she was a narcissist sober as well, and alcohol would just increase her toxic behaviors. But I haven't noticed any toxic behaviors in him. I think he drinks at work when he feels overwhelmed and at night to fall asleep. When I'm with him and he's drunk or tipsy, he acts pretty much the same as when he's sober. He's kind and loving, but abstracted. I don't even know if he's aware of his problem, how long he's been living like this, or why. I've only seen him make a few light jokes about it, but noticed he seems really embarrassed when talking about it with me. I also cannot understand how no one in his life seems to be worried about this. Maybe they are, and I just don't know. Or maybe they don't see such a big issue. I don't know. Is it appropriate to ask him about that? The thing is, I don't know if he's in a pre-alcoholism stage. Every response here is always leave now, get out. But I really see us together. We have the same values. We want the same things. Should I just completely leave without even trying to see what happens? Going through this is really crushing my heart. I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder years ago, and after a lot of therapy, I am doing much better and have so many coping skills. But I truly don't know if I'll ever get cured. When I was diagnosed, I started reading about how people with borderline personality disorder were unlovable, selfish, and to not get into a relationship with them, and that made my world sink. I wouldn't want to give someone who's done nothing wrong to me that same treatment. I also struggled with a dependency on benzodiazepines for years due to depression and trauma, and I don't think my problem ever harmed anyone else but me. I did it mostly to fall asleep or go through stressful situations. No one noticed because this habit is easier to hide. That's why I feel so conflicted. Could he be dependent on alcohol and not addicted? Would that make any difference? I just don't think it's fair for him. I don't think he's a bad person. I think he's broken. And when I was broken, having someone by my side who loved me really helped. And if I decided to not continue the relationship, how would I approach that conversation? We haven't even barely talked about his problem. Should I approach the conversation about him having a problem first and see how he reacts? Should I tell him my worries and thoughts about getting into a serious relationship with him? Or just make up a random excuse? I'm scared that he will panic at the thought of me leaving, say he'll do anything, and I, being weak, will accept that. But I also don't want to lie to him. We're in this honeymoon phase, and it would come off as so unexpected. I also feel so guilty, stupid, and angry at myself for getting into this. I realized he had a problem from the start, and I still continued to pursue him. He was my crush from the beginning and has met all my expectations, and I feel so happy right now, but heartbroken at the same time because I already love him. I'm also a very vulnerable person, and I'm terrified of getting into a relationship and falling in love with someone who, according to what I'm reading, will only get worse, has no hope, and will never truly love me. Please help me and be kind. I'm also someone who struggles with a lot, and this is being really hard on me. I'm also thinking this is going to make me lose my job. Now for an update. Aita told me to leave, but how? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. The problem with alcoholism is that it limits the ability to have other coping mechanisms, like getting through a workday or falling asleep while sober. Over time, you can cope less and less, and with every single problem, it seems like the solution is alcohol. Then it tips over to alcohol, causing more and more problems. Job loss. Even in a casual work environment, you can get fired at any moment for drinking on the job. Injuries, more emergency room visits, a smaller social circle, and driving under the influence are all likely. After that, chronic health problems, such as diabetes, poor circulation, liver failure, and heart disease start to show up. Plus, the cost is draining significantly. That's the down payment going down the drain. He doesn't want to change, and you have the choice to change. Comment 2. Walk away. Walk away now. It's not your job to fix someone. It's not your job to be his parent. Listen, life is tough. Many people make bad decisions. Many people do not value themselves. Many people hang with the wrong, non-serious, non-professional crowds and get upset when life bites them in the behind. Your past matters. Anyone who tells you it doesn't is a groomer. Move on. Find a winner, a serious, hardworking, ambitious man. Not some person who drinks too much or wants to work in Tesco or the NHS. Nobody wants that. Now, for the update. It's been a little over a month since my last update, and I finally decided to talk to him about his drinking. Like I wasn't dreading this convo since the day I posted. I picked a quiet evening after work when we were chilling at his place. I just wanted a chill night, so I brought up the topic casually, mentioning I noticed he had been drinking more than usual. He brushed it off, saying he was just having fun and that everyone drinks. At this point, I should have known better. I pressed a little more, sharing my concerns about how it reminded me of my mom's struggles. He got defensive, insisting he was fine and didn't have a problem. The convo turned, and he said I was being dramatic. Dramatic? Me? I don't even know what I expected. A week later, we went to my sister's birthday party together. My sister had invited a group of friends, and it was supposed to be a fun night. He started drinking early and quickly became the life of the party. I noticed he was getting louder and more boisterous as the night went on. At one point, he spilled his drink on my brother-in-law's shirt, which everyone laughed off. I tried to steer him to a quieter corner, but he wanted to keep partying. My sister pulled me aside and mentioned that she was worried about his drinking. She probably thought I was blind or something. Later that week, I found out from my sister that he had been showing signs of aggression when drinking. She mentioned a recent incident where he got into a shouting match with a bartender over a drink. I confronted him about it, and he dismissed it as a misunderstanding. Like, sure, buddy. I started noticing he would often go out with coworkers after work, without telling me. One night, he came home late and smelled strongly of alcohol. I asked where he had been, and he said he was out with friends, but wouldn't elaborate. The tension between us grew. I started going to a local yoga class to clear my head and focus on myself. Seriously, yoga is a lifesaver. In one class, I ran into a coworker who mentioned he noticed my boyfriend's drinking at work too. He said it was becoming a topic of concern among some colleagues. Yeah, no kidding. My boyfriend's birthday was coming up, and I wanted to do something nice for him. I planned a surprise dinner with close friends at a restaurant he liked. The night of the dinner, he showed up late and had been drinking beforehand. During the dinner, he made inappropriate jokes that made some friends uncomfortable. I tried to change the subject, but he kept pushing it and laughing loudly. After dinner, I pulled him aside, telling him he needed to tone it down. He exploded, saying I was ruining his birthday and being overbearing. We argued outside the restaurant. I decided to leave early, and he stayed with our friends, drinking more. A few days later, he texted me apologizing for his behavior. I thought we could work on things, but he showed up drunk at my apartment unannounced. I told him I needed space, but he begged me to stay and work it out. I ended up telling him I needed a break from our relationship. He agreed, but said he didn't think he had a problem. Edit. After the breakup, he reached out multiple times, often drunk. I had to block him on most platforms. I've since focused on my mental health and have been to therapy, which has helped. Am I the idiot for refusing to be my father's scapegoat while he shields my brother from the fallout of his lies? So my 22-year-old relationship with my dad, who is 59 years old, has been pretty on the rocks for about 5 months. I think it's mostly because he doesn't like that I have pointed out his narcissistic tendencies and behaviors to my mom, who is 54 years old, which turned my mom from the obedient wife to holding him more accountable. On Thanksgiving, I went out with my family to a restaurant that is buffet style. To preface this, my brother, who is 18 years old, was collecting vapes. He told me, and I looked at him like, ah, and he was like, I'm not vaping. I believe him because he is the type to tell me he is vaping by vaping in front of me. My brother was collecting empty disposable vapes for their lithium-ion batteries. He showed my dad a video of people who collect vapes for the batteries and told him he was doing it. One day, on his way back from the gym, the dead vape my brother collected earlier in the day fell out of his bag and into the car. My mom saw it when getting her handbag and ended up picking it up and freaking out because she assumed one of her kids was vaping. She held on to it and showed my dad first and asked him what it was. My dad told her it was a vape, and she was like, "Whose do you think it is?" Knowing for a fact my dad wasn't the one who was vaping. And, despite knowing my brother was collecting dead vapes, he blamed me. He told my mom I was the one vaping. I just want to clarify, I don't have a problem with those who vape. I just don't vape because I sing. I'm a vocal teacher, and I actively perform at my university in singing clubs, and I also have asthma and don't want to risk making that worse. My mom, freaking out more, thinking I was vaping, for those above reasons, still just held on to the vape and kept it in her bag. At the restaurant, at some point, I got up to get more food, and the three of them, mom, dad, and brother, were sitting and eating. My mom, very dramatically according to my brother, then pulls out the vape and shows my brother and asks what it was. My brother just told her that it was a vape, that he found it and was using the battery for a project. He said it casually because he had nothing to hide, knowing he told my dad the same thing, and he'd confirm his story because he said that he showed our dad a video he saw of other people doing this. My mom was shocked, and she looked at my dad like, "You knew he was doing this? Is this true?" And my dad was like, "Yeah, he told me." My mom then felt horrible for even thinking it was me, and she told my brother to not say any of this to me. My brother was like, "Why not?" And my mom replied, "Because he knew it was you, and he still blamed your sister." My brother was shocked and asked my dad why he would even think to blame me. My dad stayed silent, and my mom told him to drop it in case I came back. I don't even know what to do anymore. I feel like my dad sees me as an actual demon child when I've been studying, working, and just trying to do good by my rules and the way I live life. Is there any possible way to approach him in the future? Now, for a few comments before the update. Well, actually this post did not have any comments. Now, for the update. 3 days after Thanksgiving, my mom texts me, asking to meet at a nearby diner for breakfast. Like, okay, this is random. I just hope it's not about more family drama. I get there early, cause why not? And immediately notice my mom like super anxious and distracted. It's kind of awkward, but whatever. Then my dad walks in shortly after wearing sunglasses inside. Like, who does that? Definitely not him. He sits down without even acknowledging me, just focusing on the menu. It's so obvious he's trying to ignore me, and I'm pretty done with this silent treatment. Eventually, my mom brings up the whole vape incident, saying she feels guilty for not believing me. I mean, yeah, she should feel bad. Like, I was being honest, and she just doubted me. I explained my brother's project again, trying to clear up any confusion. He's just collecting these empty disposable vapes for the lithium-ion batteries, but my dad cuts me off. He starts claiming my brother is irresponsible and that I should have been more careful. Like, excuse me? This is totally your fault for throwing me under the bus in the first place. So I point out that he's blaming me again. That's when he snaps back, saying I'm always looking for attention with my drama. Like, no, I'm just trying to get through to you, but you have to make it about me being a drama queen again. My mom tries to mediate, but he's just not having it. He insists that I'm the problem in the family. It's always me, apparently. I can't even with this guy. Later that day, my brother asks to borrow my laptop for schoolwork. I'm like, yeah, sure, but he seems kind of secretive about using it. Whatever. Hours later, I find his social media open on the laptop, and he's been messaging friends about a family crisis. So I confront him about it, and he just brushes it off, saying it's a joke. Really now? A joke? The next day, my mom invites me to a family dinner to clear the air. Honestly, I don't know how many more of these I can take. At dinner, the atmosphere is so uncomfortable, and my dad won't even make eye contact with me. My brother makes this comment about me being the favorite and laughs, but my dad just sits there, stone-faced. Then my mom tries to change the subject by asking everyone about their week, but my dad's just silent. Out of nowhere, my brother brings up the vape incident again, saying it was all my fault. Frustrated, I stand up and say that I can't keep taking the blame for everything. My dad shouts back, saying I'm being dramatic and should just own up to my mistakes. Like, excuse me? My mom, caught in the middle of our argument, tells me to sit down and calm down. The following day, I overhear my parents arguing loudly in the living room. It's pretty bad, but I don't want to get involved, so I stay in my room. A few hours later, my mom knocks on my door, saying she needs to talk. I'm like, okay, and then my dad enters the room, furious. He starts accusing my mom of turning the kids against him. The whole time, my brother's just giggling in the background, seemingly unfazed, which only makes me more angry. My dad calls after me, but I ignore him and leave the house. I take a long walk to clear my head and end up at this local park. While there, I see my brother hanging out with friends, not caring about the family drama. It's so typical of him to just check out like that. After returning home, I find my mom in tears and try to comfort her. She reveals that she's been considering separation from my dad due to ongoing issues. Then, my dad walks into the room, looking more defeated than angry. It's just this heavy atmosphere. We're all standing there, and it's like we all know this is just the beginning of a bigger problem. The family is facing an uncertain future, and honestly, I don't even know what happens next. Edit, my dad has always been protective of my brother, which might explain his behavior. My brother tends to avoid confrontation, while I often face our dad's issues head-on, making me the target. Am I the idiot for wanting to walk away from a friend who won't leave her toxic ex? We have been friends for about 2 years. She struggles with depression and anxiety, and I try my best to support her and get her out of the house as much as I can. Her biggest shortcoming is her absolutely toxic relationship with her ex, who is also the father of her child. She is still absolutely head over heels in love with him, even though he's possibly the worst man I've ever heard of. He has 5 mothers of his children and keeps her, one other mother of his children, and his current live-in girlfriend in this constant love triangle and strings them all along. They all know he cheats and they care, but not enough to end it. He is a classic love bomber and will shower her with acts of kindness and gifts before treating her poorly and making demands that she give up things or people she loves. He's got all these girls constantly sharing their live location with him so he can keep tabs and is incredibly possessive of them. For example, when we eat dinner together, he calls her an average of 4 to 5 times during the course of the meal. He accused her of having a threesome with me and my husband because, not really sure why, honestly. We aren't like that. Like I said, worst man I have ever heard of. Anyway, we have been trying to get her to cut ties with him, apart from coordinating child custody and co-parenting, for over a year now. She just doesn't seem to be motivated to do it at all. She knows she needs to. She knows that he's the reason she's constantly having mental breakdowns. But she just won't take that big first step, no matter how much support I give her or encouragement. She's still having intimacy with this guy often. She's been lying to me more lately because she doesn't want me to be disappointed, which has frustrated me because I hate being lied to. I think she's getting sick of my encouragement, frankly, and doesn't really even seem to want to talk about him at all. But when she has a mental breakdown, I have to help pick up the pieces. She sees a therapist, but I am consoling her multiple times a week because he did something terrible to her again. She doesn't seem to actually execute any plans to change anything about her situation. I feel like I'm done. I have always called myself self-destructive, but this is a whole new level. I just don't know what to do anymore. What's worse is she literally just moved up to my part of town to be closer to us at my encouragement, which sucks, but it's a sunk cost, I guess. She literally will not do a single thing to improve her situation. Is it time to call it quits on this friendship? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Have you tried setting some boundaries with her? Maybe telling her that you understand that she doesn't have it in her to leave him and that you won't get on her case about it, but that you don't want to hear about him anymore either. Then, when she has a meltdown, tell her to discuss it with her therapist. Comment 2. It may be time to establish boundaries for your own well-being. Consider stepping back from being her primary support while encouraging her to seek professional help, as you can't effectively help someone who isn't ready to help themselves. Now for the update. 2 weeks after my last post, I got a text from the woman asking to meet up after work. I was like, oh great, what now? But I agreed because, I can't just ghost her. So we met at a local diner, and she seemed super stressed. Like, I could practically see the stress radiating off her. She sat down and just started talking about her ex. Apparently, he's been more aggressive lately and showing up unannounced at her apartment. Like, what a loser. She mentioned this one incident where he banged on her door late at night, demanding to see their kid. I felt like we needed to do something and suggested we go to the police or something, but she refused, saying it would make things worse. At this point, I was just like, okay, whatever you think, but this dude is a piece of work. She then revealed that she's been getting these harassing calls from him, which left her shaken. I mean, who wouldn't be? This is just so messed up. I offered to help her change her phone number, but she hesitated, fearing it would escalate things. I noticed she had these dark circles under her eyes and looked totally exhausted. It's like, how much more can one person take? We decided to have a movie night that weekend to distract her. We were planning to watch some classic comedies just to get her mind off everything. The night of the movie, she showed up late, explaining she had to deal with a last-minute issue with her ex. I totally get it, but still, it's just so draining. During the movie, her phone kept buzzing with messages from the ex, causing her to jump every time. I just couldn't take it anymore. I took her phone and turned it off, insisting she needed a break from the chaos. Seriously, how can you relax when your phone is blowing up with crap like that? I suggested a weekend getaway to a cabin in the woods to clear our heads. I thought it would be a good way for her to get away from all the craziness. She agreed, thinking it might help her think clearly about her life. So we packed our bags and drove to the cabin, just excited for a break from everything. Upon arriving, we found the cabin was cozy and away from distractions. Just what we needed, The first night, we sat by the fire, and she opened up about her fears regarding her ex. I brought up the idea of documenting his behavior, just in case things got worse. She seemed hesitant, but eventually agreed, realizing she needed a plan. We both know this isn't just going to magically get better. The next day, we went hiking, and she mentioned wanting to reconnect with her family for support. I encouraged her to reach out, suggesting a family dinner to discuss her situation. It's about time she got some help from them. We returned home, and she texted her parents, inviting them over for dinner the following week. The day of the dinner, I helped her prepare a meal, and we both felt nervous. Like, what are her parents going to say? When they arrived, the atmosphere was tense but hopeful. Like, we were all just waiting for this conversation to happen. She laid out her struggles, sharing the ex's behavior and how it affected her. The parents were supportive, offering to help her find resources for dealing with him. Finally, right? The woman's dad suggested involving a mediator to handle custody issues, which she considered. The next day, she called the mediator and scheduled an appointment to discuss her situation. She filed the necessary paperwork and felt empowered for the first time in a while. It's about time she took control. We celebrated with dinner at the diner, where she felt lighter and more hopeful. It was just nice to see her smile, She vowed to continue working on herself and not let her ex control her life any longer. We both know the road ahead will still be difficult, but she's finally ready to take charge. Edit. A few days after our celebration, the woman called to say her ex had found out about her parents' involvement. He showed up at her apartment, furious, and threatened to take their child if she involved anyone else. She felt scared but determined to follow through with the mediator. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.